Hola, soy Dora. Today, we're going on a scientific adventure to discover how food can change through a process called fermentation. Have you ever wondered how vegetables become sour, preserved, and flavorful when they are pickled? Today, we'll explore how fermentation can help produce pickled peppers while also learning the biology and chemistry happening inside the jar. Fermentation is a biological process where microorganisms break down sugars to produce energy without oxygen. During this process, they create substances that change the flavor, smell, and texture of food. During our adventure, we will discover number 1, the ingredients needed to make fermented pickled peppers, the step-by-step preparation process, the microorganisms responsible for fermentation, and the cellular respiration happening inside the bacteria. By the end of our journey, you will understand how science transforms simple vegetables into fermented food. Are you ready to explore? Great! Our first stop is the ingredient station. Vamonos! Let's go!
Welcome, Dora. Before fermentation begins, we must first understand the ingredients involved. Let me show you what we will use to make fermented pickled peppers. First, we have fresh peppers, scientifically known as capsicum annuum. These peppers are the main vegetable that will undergo fermentation. Second, we have garlic, which has the scientific name Allium sativum. Garlic adds flavor and also contains compounds that can influence microbial activity. Next, we have iodized salt, which is extremely important for creating the correct fermentation environment. Finally, we have a clean glass jar with a lid, which we act as the fermentation container.
These ingredients look simple, but they seem very important for the experiment.
That's right. Notice that the vegetables also have scientific names. In biology, organisms are named using binomial nomenclature, a two-word naming system developed by Carl Linnaeus. The first word is the genus, and the second word is the species. For example, capsicum annuum, which is peppers. Allium sativum, it is garlic. These vegetables are considered biotic components, meaning they are living or once living organisms involved in the process.
So the peppers and garlic are biotic components that will interact with microorganisms during fermentation. Thank you. Now let us begin the scientific preparation process.
Hello, Nora.
Hi!
Today we'll be explaining the step-by-step scientific preparation in preparing fermented pickled peppers. First, we will wash the capsicum annuum and the allium sativum with clean water. This removes dirt and contaminants, but some natural bacteria remain on the vegetable surfaces, which help start fermentation.
So the bacteria needed for fermentation are already on the vegetables?
Exactly! Many beneficial bacteria actually live naturally on the surface of the plants. Now we place the sliced peppers and garlic into the clean fermentation jar. The jar will become the environment where fermentation occurs. Next, we add iodized salt and mix it with water to create a salt brine solution. Salt plays several scientific roles. First, it draws out the water out of the peppers through osmosis. And secondly, it creates an environment where beneficial bacteria can survive. Third, it prevents harmful bacteria from growing. We close the jar loosely to allow gases to escape. Then, we leave the jar at room temperature for several days. During this time, microorganisms begin fermenting the sugars inside the peppers.
That means the real science begins inside the jar. Let's go to the microbiology station to see what happens next.
Welcome, Dora! Inside the jar, a microscopic process begins. The fermentation is carried out by beneficial bacteria naturally found on vegetables. Two important bacteria involved are Lactobacillus plantarum and Leuconostoc mesenteroids. These bacteria belong to a group called lactic acid bacteria.
But what exactly do these bacteria do?
Well, good question. They consume the natural sugars inside the peppers, especially glucose. As they break down these sugars, they produce lactic acid. This lactic acid is what gives fermented foods their sour taste. But it also serves another important function. It lowers the pH of the environment, making the jar more acidic. The acidic condition prevents harmful bacteria from growing and helps preserve the food safely. During fermentation, you might observe bubbles forming from gas formation, a sour aroma, changes in taste and texture. These are all signs that active fermentation is happening.
So the bacteria are turning into sugar acid while making the energy? But how do they actually get that energy?
Well, let's visit the biochemistry station.
Hello, Dora. The process happening inside this jar is actually a type of cellular respiration. Cellular respiration is how cells break down nutrients to produce ATP, the molecule that stores energy for cellular activities. However, the bacteria inside this jar perform anaerobic respiration, meaning it happens without oxygen. This process begins with glycolysis.
What happens during glycolysis?
During glycolysis, a molecule of glucose from the peppers is broken down into two molecules of pyruvate. This process produces a small amount of ATP that bacteria use for survival. Because oxygen is absent, the bacteria cannot form aerobic respiration. Instead, they convert pyruvate into lactic acid. This process is called lactic acid fermentation. The simplified reaction for this is glucose into lactic acid plus ATP. That is why the peppers become sour and preserved over time.
So fermentation is actually bacteria performing cellular respiration in an anaerobic environment. Thank you so much! After several days of fermentation, the bacteria have produced enough lactic acid to give the peppers their sour taste and preserve them. Today, we learned that fermentation of pickled peppers involves biotic compounds such as capsicum annuum, Allium sativum, and Zingiberella officinale. Beneficial bacteria like Lactobacillus plantarum and Leuconostoc mesenteroids. The biological process known as lactic acid fermentation. This process is a form of cellular respiration where bacteria break down sugars through glycolysis, producing ATP energy and lactic acid in the absence of oxygen. Science is everywhere, even in the food we eat. Thank you so much for joining our pickled pepper adventure. Adios!
It may look simple, but fermentation is a powerful process that preserves food, enhances flavor, and even boosts beneficial bacteria. And with PickleFire PepperRush, you're not just tasting peppers, you're tasting science.
From soaking in brine to developing the perfect crunch and sour kick, every step of the process shows how science happened in real life right inside a jar of PickleFire PepperRush.
And that is how our simple peppers turned into something amazing. With the power of fermentation, tiny microorganisms work their magic to turn fresh ingredients into a tangy, flavorful treat now known as PickleFire PepperRush.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, action!
Hello, Dora. Now we will.
Wait, ba't mo yung comment
Hello, Dora.
Hi!
Now we will be explaining the step-by-step scientific process and the process of.
Hello, Dora. Today we will be demonstrating the step-by-step scientific process of preparing fermented pickled peppers.
Want to take action?
First, we will wash the capsicum at a name. First, we will wash jar at room temperature for several days. During this time, microorganisms begin fermenting the sugars inside the
Peppers.
peppers. Balik.
3, go.
That means the real science begins inside the jar. Let's go to the microbiology.
Balik.
Okay, bye.
1, 2, 3, go.
Hello, Dora. That's right. Notice that the vegetables also have scientific names. In biology, organisms are named using binomial. That's right. Notice that vegetables also have scientific names. In biology, organisms